Welcome to the Kaya FM Wine and Malt Whiskey Affair. This is the build-up to the affair. We thought we organized a little bit of a session to encourage you to try out a few wines. My name is Greg Maloka. I'm the Managing Director of Kaya FM. I'm hanging out with my boy, Kojo Baffoe, and we're going to be talking about wines and whiskeys because it is an affair between the two. But not only that, there are some few discoveries that we want to share with you. A little bit of some tools that are going to help you enjoy this particular session. A lot of you love your wines. A lot of you enjoy going to these wine sessions. But there's always that little bit of an extra thing that you are wanting to talk to. And my boy Kojo and I are going to share with you some of a few things that we've discovered. He's more of a whiskey guy, right? So safe to say.
I enjoy my whiskey. I enjoy good wine, but absolutely, my go-to drink tends to be a whiskey.
Perfect.
And various whiskeys.
Yeah.
So, like you were saying, it is about being able to open oneself to experiences such as the wine and malt whiskey affair, and use that as an opportunity to really explore and delve into what's available for you out there, and also start to find your things, your go-to. There's always your go-to wine, your go-to whiskey, your go-to liquid, and that's what we're here to do. Okay.
So we're going to start off with some wines, but before we get there, I just want to tell you about a little thing I picked up some years ago, which over the years manifested into more like a dream come true. So a few years back, about 10, 12 years ago, I was on a flight going somewhere to Europe, and I actually pick up the Times, and I'm reading this thing, and there's an article on a product called Riedel. So obviously, I'm very fascinated about this thing, Riedel. What is this all about? So I'm reading, and it turns out some few centuries ago, there's a guy called George Riedel, who is a glassmaker, who's at this aristocratic dinner on one of these nights, and the waiter pours the wrong wine by mistake, or the right wine into the wrong glass by mistake. I'm sort of paraphrasing the story, really kind of to cut to the chase. And you can imagine how it's frowned upon in those circles. But he happened to reach out and drink from this glass, and then he realized that the wine tasted different, right? Which fascinated him. In fact, it tasted better in what was supposed to be the wrong glass. Right? So he says to the waiter, listen, for the rest of the night, this is what I'm going to be drinking out of, right? Fast forward to today, effectively over the years, what they've begun to master is a very simple thing that all of us know, and that is, your mouth has different palates which are sensitive to certain tastes. So the sweet palates are right at the center of your tongue, the sour palates are at the bottom, and there's a whole thing about the long finish and so forth. So they figure out all these things, but then the most important thing that they figure out over the years is the fact that, the glass plays an important part in delivering the liquid to the right taste buds.
So is it the shape of the glass or
it's everything.
The way they make the glass?
It's pretty much not only just the shape of the glass, right? But the way in which so first it also starts with the winemaker. So what the winemaker's intention was, and what they were wanting to achieve with that particular wine, and being able to produce a glass that not only talks to that particular grape, but delivers that grape to the right taste buds, which I think is genius, right?
Absolutely, because often we talk about, when you're doing a tasting of most liquors, you talk about what are the different tastes that you get out of it.
Yep.
But if you're taking it down the wrong way, if you're not delivering the liquid to the right part of the tongue,
yep,
you're going to miss out on certain notes and hints and tones.
Absolutely. And what I've done is I've picked out a few of my favorite wines, and I also brought out a decanter. Now, decanting is also quite an important part of this whole process. You know, and what I've learned again over the years is, you know, I used to think the only thing you can decant was an aged red wine.
Okay.
And then I discovered you could actually decant white wine,
Okay.
but not only that, you could actually decant champagne as well, right? And if you decant champagne and you pour it in what they call a Montrachet glass or a Chardonnay glass, right, which we can talk to a little bit later, you know, you start to get a totally different taste profile of a particular champagne. You start to enjoy it.
Which is interesting, because with champagne in particular, we tend to try and bottle it up because we assume that we're going to lose the fizz,
Absolutely.
and then lose the taste.
But there's a thing about just cutting the fizz, right? Just like off the top a little bit, and just getting enough of the fizz, but also enough of the wine, because there's just so much wine.
It doesn't overpower
Absolutely,
the taste of the wine.
absolutely. So, you know, as part of today's session, I mean, I know we're going to talk a little bit about whiskey, because, you know, you love your whiskeys, and we'll get to how you drink your whiskey. But I want to talk to you about how I drink my wine. And what I will do is, I'm actually going to start, pass me one of those gold cap wines. So that one. So this happens to be my favorite white wine right now in the world. I did say that. And it's a Viognier, pretty much. And it's French made. And it's called a Condrieu. And generally, you know, you would have a very specific glass for this particular wine, okay, which I'm going to pour for you a bit later. And then I'm going to shoot across to the lighter version of the red wines that I like. So if you think of the Pinot Noirs. And these guys have literally designed this particular glass for a Pinot Noir. In fact, the latest version of the Riedel Wienums are you know, much lighter, right? You know, so crystal glasses really makes a huge difference in terms of, you know, what the liquid looks like and what it tastes like. But what's more incredible is that, you know, a good decanted, you know, Pinot Noir with the right age, tends to settle real cool inside the glass, in the sense that in the way they've made the glass, it preserves the perfumes, because Pinot Noirs are generally perfumed. So, you know, even like at a swirl and when you nose, I mean, it's really incredible. So this plastic cup, basically, I'm going to pour the same wine. So just for you to tell the difference between, wow, effectively what you nose out of this and then nose out of that, you know, just to kind of tell the difference. And whilst you do that, we'll probably pop open another.
Let me grab that one. So much more character. Like, it's
mad, isn't it?
bland. Like, there's nothing.
Bland.
So much more character in it.
That's what I liked about these guys, is that not only did they prove this technique, you know, they perfected it over the years, and effectively, you know, have mastered creating, you know, a glass for literally every grape, which is really fascinating.
Because the irony is that me drinking this out of here, it would turn me off. It would turn me off the wine.
Absolutely. And what's even worse is that
you know, there's no nose to it. There's no. Whereas with this, it draws you in. So
it draws you into the wine. So we'll do it with a different wine, just again, so you can sort of get the idea. So pour that plastic in there, because it's the same wine, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about the Shiraz glasses. So, you know, I've picked out a Shiraz here. You know, I've got two. I've got the Milieu, which is really cool, South African Swartland wine of origin. And then I've got one of my favorites is a Crescent's Hermitage, which is also quite a really nice, you know, Syrah, if you like. So again, pour this in there. So the whole idea around the Syrah is it's much more spicy. You know, it's your steak wine. It's your kind of like heavy, you know, very, you know, strong from a scent point of view, but see what you know is in there, and then see what you know is in there. Same wine, plastic glass, and Riedel glass specifically made for that variety.
Sure. Such a difference. It's crazy. It's like you're trying to nose water.
Absolutely. And a lot of people then said, this is probably like a marketing gimmick, you know, I mean, come on, right? These guys went and developed this one. So this baby is a Coca-Cola glass. Okay, it's a Riedel Coca-Cola glass. They went and did this whole glass tasting thing, right? And, you know, to basically prove their technique. And now, to prove that their technique is actually scientifically correct, they, you know, did a whole thing with Coca-Cola and did a Coke glass, and you can get a variety of glasses. I mean, this one is a Montrachet, you know, or Chardonnay glass. So if you want to drink, you know, Chardonnay and enjoy Chardonnay, if your glass is wider and if it's more open, you know, again, the qualities of a Chardonnay, you know, the buttery stuff, the whole kind of smooth sort of flavor you can enjoy in this. You know, I also do Chablis out of this, you know, or some of the Sauvignon Blancs as well. You're able to taste from that. They've also got a champagne glass, which is, you know, a typical champagne glass shape. But again,
wider
material, a bit wider, you know, and does really well for sort of champagne. And then, you know, they have stuff for your blends. So, you know, if you're thinking about, like this V series, for instance, what I like about Villafonte is that they'll produce a V series every year, or ever so often. And what's really cool is that, you know, the first one that I learned about was actually after the, you know, KFM Wine and Malt Whisky affair.
Okay.
It was one of those under the table sort of things, which was really cool.
Bell.
And these are, yeah, so Wade bells, but yeah, so when the bell rings, right? And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed discovering some really great things, and that's what you gotta love about, you know, this event, is that it's not, you know, whilst you get to learn a lot of cool things about wine, about how to enjoy your wine, it's also not very prescriptive.
Yeah.
You know, it's great to know certain things and what the discoveries are. What these guys have done with, you know, Riedel glass is also really amazing. It's stuff that you should know. It also helps you, you know, when you get to certain restaurants, you know, on that day when you say, you know, you just, you know, really want to go out and have a really great time and order a good bottle of wine, it also helps to ask if there's, you know, do they have the right glass to accompany the liquid? Because nothing worse than, you know, being served, you know, one of these, you know, priceless, you know, bottles of liquid, and, you know, only to be served in like a plastic cup.
Exactly.
Where is that thing? We should throw it away, actually. You know, so they, you know, they make a lot of these types of glasses. I mean, you know, they'll also have kind of like your liqueur things. I enjoy drinking, you know, different kinds of things from these. You could, you know, you could do a grappa. You know, I sometimes pour like a whiskey if I feel like doing a shot. You know, again,
but also like it looks like with a good port, like not too much.
Port's
with a good
really,
port.
really great. But you know, it's for sort of those types of drink. And what they do is also kind of like the stemless version. So nothing worse than being at a picnic, and you know, you want to enjoy your wine, but you can't like put down a whole sort of stem thing on the grass. So you know, this stemless technique is also really cool. I must admit, earlier on I actually didn't understand anything about it. I thought, what, you know? But it just shows how when you are, you know, kind of stuck on purist mindsets, you will end up sort of thinking in that particular way. And I think the purpose of today really was kind of to share, you know, with everyone out there who's coming to the Wine and Malt Whisky Affair, the types of things that you will discover, which are really fantastic. We're going to be drinking a lot of really awesome South African wines. You know, I mean, I discovered my V series there, which was an, you know, under table sort of thing. The Wade Bales Society is also quite a clued up bunch in terms of, you know, the types of wines that they'll be curating for the day. Yeah, and you know, when I drink wine, these are the things that I obsess about. I obsess about what's in the bottle. I obsess about what the winemaker's intention was, because sometimes you just drink something and you think, oh, I don't like it. And I stopped doing that because, you know, when you don't go a step further and ask the question, so what was the winemaker's intention? Like this Croissant Hermitage was not my favorite wine. You know, first time I consumed it, I thought, okay, I don't, you know. But then I tried it a couple of more times and actually liked it because I cooked liver with, you know, brown onion once. And this is the bottle I had, and I thought, I need to finish these bottles. I never liked them anyways. So I wanted, from that day on, I thought, okay, now I'm going to store these ones and keep them. So that's what's really fascinating, and that's what's incredible about the Wine and Malt Whiskey Affair. So, you know, we want to encourage people to come around. You will find that thing you like, you know, the thing that interests you. And yeah, we'll pick it up from there. But I know you got some whiskeys to talk about.
Yeah, talk about from a whiskey perspective.
Yeah.
I think it is that. So, you know, my journey to whiskey was more an experimental journey.
Right.
Which led me down different paths. And in that time, I've gradually found my favorite whiskeys. But, you know, as with wine, there's not a single thing that is the best.
Yeah.
There's you know, different liquids for different occasions. Yeah. There's moments when you didn't enjoy something at some stage, and then down the line, for some reason, you know, it's like you grow older, your palate evolves, and all of a sudden, that very same thing you did not enjoy, you
starts
enjoy.
Popping up.
And you know, having gone to a lot of tastings, and you know, when you go to tastings, sometimes you feel under pressure.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the brand ambassadors know the ins and outs, obviously, of the liquid that they're dealing with. And, you know, when you're nosing it and they're saying, do you sense this, do you sense that?
And you go, yes, yes, yes.
And and to be honest,
you say yes because you think it's the right thing to say.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So one of the things, for me, it's, you know, the fundamentals, and there's two parts to it. There's when you're going and you're tasting, and, you know, last year also for me, when I went to the Wine and Malt Whiskey Affair, I discovered certain whiskies that were down my palate.
Yes.
But the beauty of it is your starting point is just being able to engage with it and taste it. And that's when, you know, kind of call it the instructions you're given. The instructions you're giving work because they're designed, you know, they're designed for you to get the best of it, you know, from the starting point.
Right.
So, you know, with, I won't lie, one of my favorite, Buklari, your starting point is always neat, and I know neat always intimidates people and drives people away from it. Yeah. But the purpose, you know, the purpose of it and the purpose of your tasting is to basically experience it.
And it's raw as form, basically.
Yeah, and then you can kind of evolve. You can evolve with it, and if it's something that you enjoy. So, you know, I often talk about the legs, and, you know, the legs is about how it runs down the glass, and it relates to what viscosity. Yeah. And there's debate about, you know, does it mean a younger if it runs too fast? Does it mean a younger or an older? Yeah. And with a lot of these things, there are the people out there who will sell you a particular story.
Yes.
But we're all just,
it's a brain
certain elements we're trying to figure out each of us. Your starting point also is your color. I mean, it's always a beautiful golden, different textures of gold, beautiful golden liquid. Yeah. I'll give you that glass, and then I'll pour myself one over here.
And of course, in a real glass makes all the difference.
Yeah. Because also, I mean, it's because when you nose it, you need to allow the scent to come up. Yeah. Because with whiskey, it's slightly more, it can potentially be more overpowering. Yeah. And so just even the structure of the glass, it captures that and kind of delivers it to you in the best way possible. Absolutely. So, you know, when you look at the color and when you're nosing, one of the things that I found when I was nosing, particularly when it's overpowering, is if you open your mouth slightly. Yeah. Which is something nobody ever tells you. Yeah. So you stick your nose in it, and you don't necessarily need to go deep. But if you open your mouth slightly, then it doesn't hit the head. It doesn't hit the head as much. Absolutely. And I mean, something like Bruichladdich, the Aardberg that we have here, your Langevullens, your Taliskers, they're very peaty whiskeys. Yeah. And in the malting process, at some stage, what they do is they burn peat below it, and that's what comes through and gives it that smoky, that very peaty scent to it. And I mean, Brookladish and Ardbeg are some of the most peatiest whiskies out there. And so when you
taste-wise,
your first taste. Like you're talking about taste buds earlier, it's always good to let it linger all over,
swirl. Okay.
Swirl it around, let it linger around.
But these guys figured out how not to swirl, which is great. Yeah. That's brilliant.
And so, like, this is a very peaty whiskey. And I mean, I won't lie. I remember last year when the bell rang. Yeah. And they pulled out black arts. They pulled out black arts from beneath the table. That was a special moment because I'd been through everything by then. Wow. So I mean, that's your starting point, and then your next point is to add water in the tasting, and that's why a lot of times they'll use like a little pipette because it literally is a drop of water, and it's always amazing how that drop of water just opens up and enhances and brings other scents and other flavors to the core. I mean, to the surface.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
So it's the same thing. You with the water, you nose it to get that.
Yeah, I like how it always opens up.
And that's the beautiful thing about it.
It's almost like a totally different liquid altogether.
It has its charm. It has its appeal, and then you open it up, and it just takes you to another place.
It's awesome. It's almost like something totally different.
And I also find, particularly when you swallow and you let it go down, you just exhale a little bit, and it eases it down.
It's brilliant.
And I think from then, this is where it gets, for a lot of people, it gets complex. Yeah. I mean, so for example, I like my whiskey with ice. Yeah. But I'm also one of those 2 ice blocks. It's become my thing. 2 ice blocks, no more, no less. Because I find also, as I'm drinking, and I'm not going to be guzzling the thing down. Yes. As the ice melts, that adds my water to the whiskey, but it also enhances the flavor.
Brings up a bit more flavor.
And it never becomes too watery.
And it doesn't water down the... Yeah.
Some people enjoy it with just water. Yeah.
Some neat. Some tons of ice. And again, nothing wrong with that. But talk to me about mixes though and those types.
So the fascinating thing, I mean, looking at cocktails. Yeah. Literally every whiskey brand, including your single malts, which for the purists are kind of the holy grail.
But no, listen, forget it. I had a cognac cocktail, and not even here, like in the heart of cognac in France. I was blown away. This after, for a very long time, the purists have said, oh, no, so you don't add anything to this and whatever. But, I suppose market forces, people's tastes, and all those things, in the end, influence how people consume.
I always tell the story of when you talk about cognac, for example. I always tell the story that was told to me about 3 men walking into a bar on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. Yeah. And the 2 men sat down, and the 1 man went to the bar and said, "Could I get a Hennessy XO on the rocks? Could I get 3 doubles?" And the bartender was like, "No.
I'm not gonna serve it to you that way."
He says, "Why not?" He says, "That's blasphemy. Like, XO must be served
XO
neat."
Must be served neat.
And the man who was asking for it was Gilles Hennessy. I think he was 6th generation or 7th generation of Hennessy. And he said, "I am Hennessy, you give me my cognac."
In the way that I want.
Yeah. And that's the thing about, so the fascinating thing, it's about taste. So for example, in the way that the glasses enhance and mold and guide and deliver that taste and that fragrance to you. When making a cocktail, it's the same thing. It's about what you're going to use. So, there's been whiskey with champagne. Yes. Whiskey with champagne, whiskey with bitters.
Yeah, there's very interesting cocktails.
So there's very interesting
even
cocktails.
Our boys at Marble these days are playing around with some very interesting cocktails.
And a lot of times,
even at Mesh, there's some things that are just crazy.
Exactly. So the easy route is to go with blends. Because blends are a bit easier to work with from a taste perspective, from often a fruitiness perspective, and I guess a flowery perspective.
Sure.
So that's the easier route. More challenging is then working with, for example, something like this,
Yeah.
that is very peaty, that is a single malt. But you can create really interesting flavors and interesting fragrances. And it's just understanding that you are allowed to experiment. And it's about finding what works for your palate.
Yeah.
And so I find with different whiskies, you know, some whiskies, I mean, people scoff at us, but for example, the Jameson,
Yeah.
I enjoy with lemonade and lime, actual lime, where you slice the lime, and it's an awesome summer drink.
Jameson is a very nice drink.
And it's a beautiful summer drink.
Yeah.
And the first time I had it was actually in Middleton, at the distillery.
Yeah.
And I went there for an event, and they were serving them in jam jars.
Wow.
And I got home, and the first thing I did was I went to the supermarket to look for lime. Not lemon,
not lemon, yeah,
not
lime.
juice,
Yeah,
lime, proper the tiny one.
Yes.
So it's about finding what works for your palate. So I enjoy a wide range of whiskies.
Yeah.
I'm finding I enjoy very peaty,
Yep.
but I've been interacting with a lot more. You know, Glenfiddich has some really interesting ones.
Yeah.
The Glenfiddich original, Glenmorangie has the original, which
I mean,
which are fruitier.
Yeah.
But I'm finding a whole.
Yeah.
I'm now discovering like a whole different world that I hadn't engaged with.
I mean, the Japanese are doing some interesting
The
things.
Japanese, the Canadians,
I mean,
the
that,
French.
That Hashuki stuff.
And look, South African, like 3 ships,
The
something like a
Yamazaki.
3 ships.
Something like a 3 ships in that is also
You know,
really
guys have
fantastic.
done blind tastes with 3 ships.
Yeah.
And if people don't see what's in the bottle, they just said, "My God, this is an
This is
amazing,
nice."
amazing whiskey." So it's about that, and you know, we go back to this idea that the purpose for me, the purpose of experiences such as what we're doing with the Wine and Malt Whiskey Affair. You know, I attended it last year as a guest of Kaya.
Yeah. And now you're the host.
This year, when I knew it was locked down,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going on this day.
Yes.
Okay, I'll work, I'll do whatever needs to be done,
And then
but I'm
after
going to
that,
be there.
yeah,
But the
yeah.
beauty of it is you can go on that journey and you can experience it and you can interact with the people behind it. So you start to get a bit more of the story.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, the story also, you know, we as human beings connect with stories.
Yeah.
And
No, absolutely.
as you experience the story, you know, that story then impacts on how you engage with and how the relationship that you build with.
But here's what's really cool about this event. It's over 2 days. So you could literally choose to do wines on the one day, whiskeys on the other day. So I think as we conclude our conversation, excuse me, the one important thing to note is that neither one of us are experts in these things.
Absolutely.
In fact, someone is probably going to see this and say, what the hell are you talking about?
You're not supposed to do it like that.
Do they even know what's going on? And the truth is we don't. I could not have told the story of Riedel better than Riedel themselves, better than the guys at Reciprocal, you know, who've shared the story with me over and over, and just my own experience. But the whole point is that I took all of those things, I took all of those different things, and I owned them, I made them my own. And the whole point of this event is get there, find something that you like, and own it, you know? If you're really into your wines and you're really into your whiskeys.
Or if you're interested in exploring that space, you've interacted with 1 or 2 things, but you feel, because it often happens, and it doesn't matter who you are. With new spaces, you often feel excluded from it. Because you feel like you're going to ask stupid questions. And as they say, there's no, I mean, this is a great space to go in and literally just ask the people the questions.
But funny we say that. Just lastly, I mean, with people that are not necessarily into drinking the stuff as much as we do, because we love it, but from an investment point of view, what's been truly interesting is the best return on investment in the last few years from an investment point of view has been classic cars, art, and wine. So you could literally build a beautiful cellar, buy the stuff, you know, and preserve it, you know, and increase its value and literally resell it. So you could have, you know, you could literally be investing in something that you're passionate about. And what's lovely about this is that because we do this event with Old Mutual, and they know a bit more about investing, this thing just comes together so beautifully, right? So, you know, like we're saying, you know, for us, it's not really about being experts in anything. These are things we've learned from reading, from hanging out with friends, from connecting with people who are experts in this environment, from being at the Wine and Malt Whisky Affair, from conversations, from hanging out, listening to music, sharing, you know, the liquids, and just enhancing our knowledge.
And all we're really trying to do is share that.
We really hope to see you there. We hope you come through at the Wine and Malt Whisky Affair. It's going to be in Hyde Park, and it's going to be a blast. Cheers. Wow, what a toast with a...
You can have.
I can toast with... That's that off, yeah.
Toast.